rero ubwo nuvuga ngo Maria asanze ariyo nibwo namubwiye nti uko biri kose urabizi ngende mu bantu nyine bakwiciye ariko noneho ndagira ngo umpe imbabazi.
Byagiye bigenda gahoro uko dusabana, uko duhura, uko tuvugana, uko twigishwa, haciyemo inyigisho nyinshi cyane, ntabwo byari byoroshye.
To heal the wounds of a nation where neighbors killed neighbors, and even some family members turned on each other, the new Rwanda had to find a way to deliver justice for the victims, which could manage the scale of the crimes, and could also heal the torn social fabric of our society. So, we turn to our history for the answer. We set up Gacaca tribunals, a traditional form of community justice where citizens elected Inyanga Mugayo, men and women of integrity in their communities, who heard almost 2 million genocide cases. This not only ensured that justice was delivered, but also established the truth of the killings. Reconciliation could begin at last.
Gacaca zimaze kugeramo abaturage tugakorana, bariya bafunguye bakaza bagashinjanya. Kanaka uwe kanaka twajyanye mu gitero, uwe kanaka twajyanye mu gitero, ngo kuko abakoze jenoside, ngo kuko bagaragaye.
Abenshi bo muri Gacaca byatumye bamenya uko ababo bishwe, barihangana barabyakira, bamenya naho bajuguye.
We asked that the genocide survivors make huge sacrifices by putting aside their desire for retribution in favor of forgiveness and reconciliation. And we asked all Rwandans to leave the ethnic divisions in the past and embrace a future of Ndumunya Rwanda, where we are all Rwandan.
Your Excellency, Ms. Annalena Baerbock, President of the 80th Session of the United Nations General Assembly, Mr. Courtney Rattray, Chef de Cabinet, Executive Office of the Secretary General, Mr. Emmanuel Ugirashabuya, Minister of Justice and also the Attorney General of the Republic of Rwanda, Excellencies, survivors of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda, dear colleagues and friends, I'm Melissa Fleming and I lead the United Nations Department of Global Communications. It is an honor to welcome you to this annual commemoration marking the 32nd anniversary of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda. Today's ceremony is organized by the United Nations Outreach Program on the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda, in partnership with the Permanent Mission of Rwanda to the United Nations. We extend our deep gratitude to all survivors and their families joining us here in person and online on this solemn day. We gather here to honor more than 1 million women, children, and men murdered in the genocide. In just 100 days, families were shattered and communities devastated in one of the darkest chapters of human history. In the film that we have just seen, which was produced by the Aegis Foundation, Aegis Trust, which is the organization that safeguards the Kigali Genocide Memorial and its archives, an essential place of remembrance. We are grateful to the Permanent Mission of Rwanda for sharing it with us today, and also for ensuring that these stories continue to reach the world and to strengthen our collective commitment to truth, to justice, and to reconciliation. As we reflect on this horrific tragedy, we are reminded that genocidal violence is never spontaneous. The genocide against the Tutsi emerged after decades of discrimination, of hate speech, and dehumanization. Its impact did not end in 1994. Survivors continue to carry profound emotional, psychological wounds, orphans who grew up without parents, widows forced to rebuild their lives, and women who endured sexual violence, many left with lasting health consequences. Their extraordinary courage and resilience compel us to remember not only the lives lost, but the lives forever changed. Remembrance is essential because it preserves the truth. By remembering, we confront denial and help future generations understand the dangers of hatred and division. The genocide against the Tutsi stands as devastating evidence of what happens when clear warning signs are ignored or dismissed. It is also a call to act, to stand against hate, and to ensure that genocide is never allowed to take place again. We honor the victims and survivors by remembering their humanity and reaffirming our unwavering commitment to strengthening global genocide prevention efforts. Today, we are privileged to welcome two survivors of the genocide, Mr. Marcel Mutsindashiaka, representing Ibuka, an association of genocide survivors, and Mr. Serge Gesore. We look forward to hearing your testimonies at our ceremony today. Your voices powerfully underscore why remembrance matters and why it is the responsibility of the international community and each of us to uphold the human rights and dignity of every person. So, as we move to the symbolic candle lighting, I would like to acknowledge the Kwibuka Flame of Hope, the permanent memorial installed in the North Garden of the United Nations. It was installed in 2024 and was a gift from the Republic of Rwanda. It stands as a tribute to the victims of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi, and it is a reminder of our shared responsibility to confront hate before it takes root. It reflects the resilience and courage of the people of Rwanda and calls on all of us to speak out against discrimination, exclusion, and genocidal ideology wherever they appear. Earlier this morning, a wreath was laid at the memorial, which bears the inscription, Kwibuka 32, Remember, Unite, Renew. I now would like to invite our speakers to come forward and light a candle in honor of the victims of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda. I invite Mr. Courtney Rattray, Chef de Cabinet, Executive Office of the Secretary General, Her Excellency Ms. Annalena Baerbock, President of the General Assembly, His Excellency Mr. Emmanuel Ugirashabuya, Minister of Justice and Attorney General of the Republic of Rwanda, Mr. Marcel Mutsindashiaka, President of the Ibuka USA Survivor Association, Mr. Serge Gasore, survivor of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda, and Mr. Salim Matuk, charge d'affaires, permanent observer, mission of the African Union to the United Nations. If I may ask you to please turn on the candles in front of you, and those our guests of honor, once they're turned on, if you could put them in the glass vases in front of you. And everyone else to please turn on the candles in front of you and join us in a moment of silent reflection and solidarity with the victims of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda. For those of you who are able, may I kindly ask you to stand. Thank you. Please take your seats. It is now my honor to welcome Mr. Courtney Rattray, Chef de Cabinet, Executive Office of the Secretary General, to deliver remarks on behalf of the Secretary General.
Madam President, Excellencies, dear friends, It is an honor to join you on this solemn occasion. I'm pleased to share the following message from the Secretary General. We gather today to remember and to reaffirm a shared responsibility. 32 years ago, Rwanda endured one of the darkest chapters in human history. In just 100 days, more than 1 million people were murdered, primarily Tutsi, but also Hutu and others who opposed the genocide. Children, women, men, entire families erased with unimaginable cruelty. Today, we mourn the victims and honor their stolen dignity. We pay tribute to the survivors, whose resilience shows the strength of the human spirit. And we recall, with humility and shame, the failure of the international community, the failure to heed warnings, and the failure to take action when it would have saved lives. Excellencies, we must learn from these failures and from the evils that unfolded in plain sight. The genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda did not happen spontaneously. It was deliberate, premeditated, orchestrated. Long before the first blood was spilled, explicit propaganda flooded the airwaves, spewing lies, sowing hate, and stripping people of their humanity. Government policies were crafted to divide and to decide who belonged and who did not. Neighbors, friends, and even loved ones were made into enemies to be murdered. Words paved the way for mass atrocities. Despite unmistakable warning signs, the international community did not listen. Clear and present dangers were ignored, downplayed, dismissed. Today, digital platforms allow hate speech and incitement to violence to spread faster and farther than ever before, fueled by artificial intelligence and misguided algorithms. The ancient toxins of racism, misogyny, anti-Semitism, and anti-Muslim bigotry are once again corroding our political discourse. We hear outright denial. We hear distortion. We even hear the glorification of past genocides. The genocide against the Tutsi shows us where this path can lead. When words are weaponized and the world waits too long to respond. We must do more than remember the dead. We must protect the living by defending truth and rejecting narratives that make violence seem acceptable. We must stand firm in our shared values, live up to our commitments, and strengthen institutions that can help prevent catastrophe. This includes upholding the UN Charter and international law without exception. Peace cannot prevail if human rights are seen as conditional or selectively applied. Prevention of the gravest crimes cannot succeed when entire communities are being targeted because of who they are and violence meets with impunity. And we must rebuild trust between communities, between nations, and between people and institutions meant to protect them. Rwanda's journey after the genocide shows that healing is possible when we uphold the truth, pursue real accountability and justice, invest in the social fabric, and choose reconciliation over revenge. Excellencies, dear friends, today and every day, we must take action by confronting hate wherever it appears, by rejecting distortion and division, by strengthening education rooted in historical truth and human dignity, and by intervening before dangers spiral out of control. I call on all countries to become parties to the Genocide Convention without delay and to implement it fully. The United Nations stands with the people of Rwanda, and we stand with all those everywhere who refuse to surrender their future to fear, division, or silence. Let this day reaffirm our commitment to remember, to listen, and to act. with history as our guide and the prevention of genocide as our goal. Thank you.
I thank the Chef de Cabinet for delivering those remarks on behalf of the Secretary General. And I would now like to welcome the President of the 80th session of the General Assembly, Ms. Annalena Baerbock. Your Excellency.
Years ago, on this very day, thousands of Tutsis fled their homes and sought refuge at the Naruboye Church outside Kigali, as violence spread across the country. Over 35,000 people, women and men, children and grandparents, crowded into that church, hoping for safety in a house of God. Within a week, militias arrived, armed with guns, machetes, and clubs, with one shared, chilling purpose: to literally butcher their neighbors, their friends, their compatriots. They killed relentlessly, day and night, leaving only 18 people alive. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, across Rwanda, similar horrors unfolded, including for our distinguished guest speakers today, Serge Gasor and Marcel Mutsindasha-Yaka, who both survived the massacres as young children, boys, and who now work to support fellow survivors. Their stories and the stories of so many others are enshrined at the Kigali Genocide Memorial. On that hilltop, rose bushes grow above the graves of more than 250,000 victims. An astounding number, yet only a fraction of the more than 1 million people murdered over roughly 100 days. Over 1 million children were orphaned. Thousands, hundred thousands of women and girls were subjected to horrifying forms of sexual violence, leaving deep and lasting scars, both visible and invisible. Because, as the memorial makes clear, like hardly any other, genocide is always fought over the bodies of women. Today, we remember these victims of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsis in Rwanda. We honor the lives stolen. We mourn the families shattered. We acknowledge the suffering that endures. But 7 April is more than remembrance, more than a warning. It is an obligation that never again cannot remain a hollow refrain. It must be a constant commitment, renewed not in words, but in action. Because, as we know, the genocide against the Tutsis was not the first. It occurred decades after the Holocaust, and after the world pledged through the Genocide Convention that such crimes must never happen again. And yet, they did. As we approach the 80th anniversary of the Genocide Convention, we must confront an uncomfortable truth. Prevention is not passive. It requires action, early and decisive. This responsibility rests with all of us. And in this regard, let me return to the Kigali Genocide Memorial, which makes unmistakably clear that remembrance calls on us to confront the past with candor in order to face the present with courage. Because, as we have also seen in the video, the warning signals were there. As the memorial shows, the seeds of genocide were planted decades earlier, when colonial rulers sowed division between Hutu and Tutsi. Discrimination was entrenched, hatred was normalized, violence was incited. And when the killings began, warning fell upon deaf ears. Violence was tolerated, at times even enabled by the church, as massacres took place in Nairobi and elsewhere. Even the urgent appeals of the United Nations peacekeepers on the ground went unanswered. Instead of reinforcement, the peacekeeping force was drastically reduced at the very moment it was needed most. So let us never forget that prevention is not passive, that it requires action from all of us, early and decisive, and that this responsibility rests with all of us. As Secretary General Ban Ki-moon said during his visit to the Genocide Memorial, we failed in Rwanda, we failed in Srebrenica, but you are writing a different future. So today, our task is to ask ourselves, are we truly writing a different future? Because the roots of genocide endure worldwide. We see them in current reports of systematic killings in different parts of the world that bear the hallmarks of genocide, in the rise of hate speech that pits on one group against another, in government policies that strip people from their dignity. These are the first steps on a dangerous path that inevitably leads to dehumanization. So our joint task is clear: to counter hate speech, to stand against discrimination, and to prevent dehumanization wherever it occurs. In Kenya, Rwanda, they have a word for that: Goba Barira, meaning forgiveness, and the deeper call to empathy. We see it in the resilience of the Rwandan people, through forgiveness and outreach, healing wounds and diffusing lingering tensions, through the International Criminal Tribunal and especially the community-based Gacaca courts pursuing accountability and truth, through strong legal frameworks confronting the dangers of genocide denial and ideology, and through the leadership of women, recognizing that lasting and inclusive peace depends on women's full and equal participation. So, ladies and gentlemen, let us carry that word, Goba Barira, with us, not only as a reminder of the resilience of the Rwandan people, but also as a call to speak out whenever we hear language that diminishes another's humanity. For genocide does not begin with violence. It begins with words. Thank you.
I thank Her Excellency, the President of the General Assembly. Our next speaker is Mr. Marcel Mutsinjadashiaka, President of Ibuku, USA. At just 5 years old, he survived the genocide, where 25 members of his family were killed, an experience that shaped his life and instilled in him a profound sense of purpose. A Fulbright scholar and Yale World Fellow, Marcel Mutsinjadashiaka earned 3 graduate degrees from the Rochester Institute of Technology and the University of Cincinnati. Please join me in welcoming him.
Your Excellency, President of the United Nations General Assembly, Honorable Minister of Justice and Attorney General of Rwanda, Your Excellency, Chef de Cabinet, Your Excellencies, Ambassadors, distinguished delegates, fellow survivors, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Marcel Mutsinda Shaka. I live in Ohio. My wife and two children are in the audience. I stand before you as a survivor of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi, and also the president of Ibuka, USA. Ibuka means remember. This is a survivor-led association advocating for dignity, justice, well-being of survivors in the USA. Excellencies, Ibuka is honored to be invited as we mark 32 years since the genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda. As Ibuka, we thank UN for taking this important step in responsibly commemorating this history. Today, I speak on behalf of survivors, those who endured unimaginable loss and chose to rebuild their lives with dignity. And also, I carry a responsibility to give a voice to more than 1 million lives that were silenced. Excellencies, in 100 days, 1,074,017 Tutsis were killed, targeted simply for being Tutsi. It was systematically planned, it was intentionally organized, and people were hunted. Families were destroyed, children were left orphans, women were left widows, many females were raped. Entire families were erased. At 5 years old, my family was taken away. I lost my father, my two brothers, my sister, and 27 members of my extended family. I grew up learning to live with loss, but also how to build with the strength and resilience. All survivors like me, including my fellow Serge Gasore, who's in audience, we were left to rebuild from nothing. The world knew. This very same institution knew. This was not a failure of knowing. It was a failure of acting. And the consequences were irreversible. Lives lost, families erased, generations changed forever. Today, survivors, we still live with that cost 32 years later. More than half of survivors, we live with the trauma. Over a third, we live with severe psychological distress. But the impact does not stop with the survivors. Recent research shows that trauma is carried across generations. It affects our children and descendants, shaping lives even decades later. Healing, therefore, is not only a personal journey, but it is a collective responsibility. At the same time, many survivors face ongoing challenges, health issues, economic hardship, and aging homes. And now survivors themselves are aging, becoming more vulnerable and in greater need of support. Excellencies, the government of Rwanda has made a tremendous progress in justice, education, healthcare, and housing, which helped us survivors. But this responsibility should not rest only with Rwanda. It should be shared by the international community because it was watching. Genocide denial continues mostly those who participated in the genocide and their allies. For us survivors, it is another form of harm. It erases truth. It minimizes our suffering. In that region, around Rwanda, anti-Tutsi ideology continues to persist. It fuels violence. It threatens lives. International community still is watching. But for those affected, this is not something to watch. It is something to act on. At the same time, hate speech is spreading faster than ever before. As you know, in Rwanda in 1994, hate radio, RTLM radio, was just one radio and other few media houses. But today, the same danger has multiplied through social media, digital platforms, and artificial intelligence. Hate can reach millions in just seconds. Once again, should we watch or should we act? Excellencies, we recognize and appreciate the role of International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda, ICTR. It laid an important foundation for justice and accountability. But justice, even today, remains incomplete. Genocide convicts are still at large, including in the region and in other countries where some live freely, where survivors, as we continue to carry the weight of loss, trauma, and daily hardship. For survivors, this is an ongoing wound. Justice delayed is justice denied. No genocidaire should find safe haven anywhere. Justice is not only about accountability, but it's also about memory. The archives of ICTR have not been transferred to Rwanda 32 years after genocide. For survivors, this is about dignity. These archives are truth, they are history. They must be preserved and meaningfully connected to Rwanda, where they belong. Excellencies, even after everything we lost, survivors, we chose to rebuild. We chose life. We chose unity. Some we chose forgiveness. We built families, economies, and communities. But that is the true image of resilience. But you know what? Resilience is not enough. Today I call the United Nations, this very same body, to bring suspects to justice, ensure no genocide convict finds safe haven anywhere, strengthen international cooperation to close the gap of incomplete justice, supporting survivors, including long-term trauma and mental health needs, to protect truth, to confront denial, and stop hate before it becomes violence. Never again, it is not just a promise, it should be a responsibility to all of us, humanity. And history will remember not what we said, but what we chose to do. Thank you for standing with the survivors. Thank you for standing with Rwanda.
Thank you, Mr. Mutsindashiaka, for so movingly telling us your story and capturing the voices of other survivors, too. I now have the pleasure to introduce the Echo of Silence, the Power of Truth. This is a film in which young Rwandans use poetry to give voice to the silence left by the genocide against the Tutsi. It also honors the enduring power of truth in remembrance and healing. We are grateful to the permanent mission of Rwanda to the United Nations for making this film possible to share with you today.
We stand in the shadow of 32 years, not just as mourners, but as guardians of the light. We carry the names that were once whispered in the dark and stories that the fire tried to consume. But today, our voices are not just for grief. They are for a warning that we must never ignore.
Ururimi rurarya, rurakomeretsa, kandi rukica. amagambo mabi yabibye inzigo mu mitima ahinga urwango mu mwanya wo. Inyigisho z'uburozi zabaye imbarutso y'umwijima, zihindura umuvandimwe umwanzi, zimya itara ry'ubumuntu mu maso y'abari banyotewe amahoro.
Les mots ne sont pas de simples sons dans le vent. Elles sont des semences qui germent dans le silence. Quand la haine s'habille de discours et de slogans, elle prépare le terrain à l'indicible, à l'horreur. Se souvenir, c'est comprendre que le venin commence par la langue, avant de s'étendre par le feu et par le sang.
Today, the poison travels faster than before, hiding in screens, masked in pixels and likes. Hate speech has found new corridors to roam, whispering old lies to a new generation. But we, the youth, are the filter and the shield. We refuse to let our platforms become battlefields.
Urubyiruko rw'u Rwanda ruriho ubu twahisemo kutazaba abasomyi b'ibinyoma. Ntabwo tuzemera ko amagambo akura abantu mu muryango cyangwa ngo akureho ubumuntu bw'uwo ari we wese. Iyo uvuze nabi murumuna wanjye, uba uvuze nabi n'ejo hazaza hanjye. Twahisemo kuvuga ukuri kuko ariko konyine kudukiza.
Nous sommes les héritiers d'une résilience sans pareille. Porter les mémoires, c'est aussi porter la parole qui guérit. Refuser les mépris, dénoncer l'insulte et briser les stéréotypes. C'est ainsi que nous honorons ceux qui ne sont plus là. Que notre langage soit un pont et non un gouffre. Un mettant vers l'autre au-delà des blessures.
Let it be known. We see the signs and we speak up. When they dehumanize, we dignify. When they divide, we'll multiply our efforts for peace. Hate speech is the spark, and we are the rain. With the steady breath of education and empathy, we will extinguish the flames of division.
Kwibuka si ukureba inyuma gusa, ni no kureba imbere. Ni ukureba amaso ya mugenzi wawe ukamubwira mu mvugo yuje urukundo uti uriho kandi urabikwiye. Ntituzigera twemerera amagambo y'urwango kugaruka, ko tuzi agaciro k'amahoro twasigiwe n'abazize akarengane.
Nous ne sommes pas seulement les gardiens du passé, nous sommes les architectes d'un avenir sans haine. Que nos bouches ne soient plus les vecteurs du mépris, mais les sources d'une vérité qui restaure et qui unit. Aujourd'hui, nous prenons l'engagement solennel. Notre parole sera la lumière et notre silence ne sera plus jamais une complicité.
Never again shall words be used to destroy. Twamaganye imvugo zibiba urwango. Que nos voix sèment la paix.
Twibuke, twiyubaka.
Thank you again to the Mission of Rwanda for sharing the moving short film, The Echo of Silence, The Power of Truth. What an incredible antidote to hate speech. This was produced by the Rwandan Peacebuilding and Social Justice Organization, Never Again Rwanda. The film stands as a powerful testament to remembrance, courage, and resilience. And now it is my pleasure to introduce our next speaker. At just 9 years old, Serge Gasore survived for weeks by fleeing and hiding as the genocide unfolded around him. Today, he shares his story around the world to help others understand the consequences of hatred and the urgent importance of preventing genocide alongside the testimonies of fellow survivors. He is also the author of My Day to Die, Running for My Life, a memoir that traces his journey of survival, resilience, and hope. Mr. Gasore, the floor is yours.
Your Excellency, President of the United Nations General Assembly, Honorable Minister of Justice and Attorney General of Rwanda, Your Excellency, Chef de Cabinet, Your Excellencies, ambassadors, distinguished delegates, fellow survivors, ladies and gentlemen. Like many survivors, I speak today with pain, but also with purpose, with sorrow, but also with hope, that by sharing this testimony, we reaffirm our shared humanity. As introduced, my name is Serge Gasore. I'm married and I have 3 children, 2 boys and 1 girl. I was born and raised in Bugesera district, Ntarama sector, about 20 miles south of Kigali, Rwanda's capital. When I was just 4 years old, I lost my mother, a loss that shaped my childhood long before the genocide. From that time on, I lived with my grandmother, Kara. She was a remarkable woman who shared stories with me at night, taught me imigani, the Kinyarwanda proverbs, filled with wisdom. She wanted me to grow, to learn, and to become someone meaningful in this world. A typical day often found me at her home, where I could play without a care in this world. From the time I was a small child, I was always running. Some days I ran to play, some days I ran to school, some days I ran for a prize. At that time, I believed the world was safe. I believed love would always protect me. I was just being a child. At 8 years old,
have been
still trying to
watching
understand the world,
the International
I did not
Day
know
of Reflection that at the United Nations this month marks the 32nd anniversary of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda. And you can read more about it at the WashingtonInformer.com, where we go into what happened, why it happened, and the after effects today. And so pick up the Informer, or if you're in DC, you can pick up the physical paper. But go online and check out Rwanda Genocide at 32. Over 1 million were killed in just 100 days. So check out that as the UN and others recognize the 32nd anniversary of that most horrible event in their history over in that country in Africa, the genocide against the Tutsi. So check out the Informer to get more insight. And the UN's International Day of Reflection, you can see more of that if you go to the United Nations website. They have a lot more information, including a lot of testimony from victims and family members, which very powerful stuff. So check it out and keep checking us out. We'll be bringing you more news and views that perhaps you can use on Let It Be Known. Thanks, as always.
Let's go! Let's go, Flav. Hey!